Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, cool. My name is Tasha Morwell, and I am the Director of Young Adult Ministries here at First United Methodist Church. I, with people from all around the Southern Illinois area, have been planning this service, and we are very excited to have this time with you all today. This is an interfaith service, so whatever your background, please feel welcome and wanted here tonight. You are all part of this community together, and we are so proud to call you family.
Please stand as you are able and comfortable and join us in singing, "Oh, for a World." The lyrics are printed in your bulletins. Please be seated. We'd like to welcome Reverend Brian Coffey, pastor at Epiphany Lutheran Church, to lead us in the responsive reading as printed in your bulletins.
We come together, diverse in body, gender, sexuality, and story, rooted in love that has no bounds. For too long, some have told us that our light was too bright, our love too strange, our truth too much.
But we know now, our light is divine, our love is holy, our truth is sacred.
We honor the ones who came before, those who risked, who spoke out, who refused to be erased.
Their courage is our inheritance. Their purpose becomes our own.
In this space, every name is spoken with reverence, every pronoun respected, every body celebrated.
Here we are seen, here we belong, here we rise together.
May our pride be not only a celebration, but a calling to live with purpose, to build a world where every soul is free.
We walk in pride, we live with purpose, we are a radiant reflection of love itself.
Let our lives be the prayer of pride, of purpose, of love unbound. Amen.
For in the deep silence at this time, we knows? Perhaps you have come to royal dignity for just such a time as this.
The children will come forward. We'll have our children come. Okay, now it's on. Hi. Let's see, we're gonna go all the way. Hold on. I'm juggling too much. Let me put my bag down. Pick up my bag instead. There we go. Okay, come on up here. And you guys can sit around me. My two kiddos, all right. Okay, so what is your favorite fairy tale? Sleeping Beauty is your favorite. Eddie, do you have a favorite? Yeah, okay. So, I'm going to tell a story today that's kind of like a fairy tale because it has kings and queens and an evil plot and a hero that does the right thing. Our story comes from the Old Testament and it's in a book called Esther, and it's my favorite book in the whole Old Testament, and it has lots of really good things in it, but I have to give you just the short and sweet version of it, okay? So once there was a person named Esther, and she was raised by her cousin Mordecai, and they were both Jewish. The king had a contest to see who was going to become the new queen. I have your choice. And Esther, he chose Esther to be his queen. Esther and Mordecai were Jewish. The king was not Jewish, and Esther did not tell the king that she was Jewish. The king also had a helper named Haman. Haman really liked having power, and everyone was supposed to bow down to him. And so one day, Haman was walking through town, and Mordecai refused to bow down to him. And this made Haman so mad that he went to the king and told the king that he should issue a decree to destroy all of the Jewish people. He was so mad at Mordecai, he wanted all of them destroyed. And the king doesn't know that Esther is Jewish, so the king says, sure, why not? And Mordecai, this one's the king. And so Mordecai goes to Esther and tells her, you need to help the Jews, you need to stand up to the king, but there's one big problem. If Esther, she's not supposed to go to the king uninvited, she's only supposed to be invited to see the king. And also, she's not supposed to ask for anything. And if she breaks these rules, she could die. So, it's a very dangerous situation, but Mordecai says the verse that Joshua read to us today, that maybe you came here for a purpose such as this. So, Esther was brave, and she invited the king to a special dinner, and the king came, and she said, please spare me and all of my people, and don't destroy the Jews. And the king decided not to destroy the Jewish people. And they all lived happily ever after, except for this one. Haman gets in really big trouble. But the rest of them live happily ever after. So, Livy, we're not done yet. These are my own children and their own toys, so they're just kind of everywhere. So what was Esther's purpose in the story? Oh, yeah, the king did something that was bad and not safe? Is that what you're saying? I'm saying, what did Esther do that helped everyone? That's okay. She was brave, and she told the king to spare her people, even though she could have gotten in big trouble for it. And so there's a poem I learned this week by Maya Angelou, and it's called United in Purpose, and the choir's going to sing it later. But there's a line in it that says, good done anywhere is good done everywhere. So that means anytime you help a family member, or comfort a friend who's sad, or give your clothes away, or even compliment a stranger, all of those little good things, they make the whole world a better place. So I want you to remember two things. One, do good whenever and however you can, because it makes everywhere better. And two, no matter what, Whether you do all the good you can, or even if you make choices that hurt others, you are always loved by God. So will you do a repeat after me prayer with me? Yeah? Okay. Loving Creator, thank you for this world and all the people in it. Help us to be brave and do good, even when we don't want to, even when it's hard. Amen. Amen. You guys can listen. Okay. Go sit with Mama.
Hi, my name's Lisa Hollabaugh. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm here to read a poem by one of my favorite poets, Marge Piercy, To Be of Use. The people I love the best jump into work head first without dallying in the shadows and swim off with sure strokes, almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Green camphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
We now invite Pastor Lauren Lambert Goheen of St. Peter's UCC in Murfreesboro to come offer a prayer.
I'm Pastor Lauren. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I invite you to hear, if you would, this word of prayer. If you would bow with me. Divine love and creator of each one here, we come to you as the change of seasons swirls around us. Temperatures are dropping and leaves are falling. The earth is calling us to a time of remembrance and thanksgiving. Together in our hearts and minds, we remember all for whom living authentically has meant suffering, loss, and grief. We remember all who struggle as they come to know themselves and as they come out to loved ones. We remember all who have been cast aside by families of origin, friends and loved ones, and families of faith. We remember all who have been abused and silenced, all lives cut short by shame, stigma, and prejudice. Gathered together in this space of worship, we celebrate the gift of pride, each one living into the fullness of who you created us to be. Count us as witnesses that there are no outsiders in a community that is observant of your divine will. We lift up for your blessing persons of every gender, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, mental and physical ability, age, race, ethnicity, economic and social background, marital status, and family structure. With deep gratitude, we call to mind the faces of all the holy trailblazers in our lives and in our larger story, who modeled wisdom and compassion to show us how wide and inclusive divine love truly is. Lift us, Holy One, and hold us close to your vibrant heart. Shelter us from that which would divide and join us together in hope, that this sacred community might witness the lasting transformation of your Spirit. May we, each one, be about the work of creating sanctuary for all who have been marginalized, and may our lives reflect grace freely given and grace freely received. Amen.
Today, we are honored to host Father Jerry Anderson, an Episcopalian priest from Herrin, Illinois, who found himself called to an enormous purpose during the 1980s. Father Jerry's calling took him to places where people were being outed by an insidious disease and ignored by a cruelly apathetic government. Father Jerry's AIDS ministry led him to places where it seemed like love and purpose had fled, but he knew his own purpose was to bear witness to what remained, the crossroads of joy and sorrow, of hope and loss, and of life and death. Thank you, Father Jerry, for being with us this afternoon.
Before I get into what I want to say, I want to thank this church, United Methodist, and its pastor, Jim Barnett, for having us here. I dare to say that most churches in Southern Illinois would not have us. So thank you all. Let us pray. In the name of the great mystery, who so loved diversity that an infinite universe was and is being created, as well as this planet Earth, and its countless millions of organisms, including humankind, which include intersexual, trans, bisexual, straight, lesbian, gay, questing. Have I left anyone out? Anyway, I have to warn you, I may cry. I want to talk about pride and purpose. But I want to say that I want to leave you with a little bit of hope. It's been a long journey for me to get here, and I'm full of gratitude. I recently was called a heritage gay. And I thought, now what does that mean? And first I wasn't sure I liked it or not. And then I thought, well, I guess it's better than being called an old queen. So I'm going to speak to you tonight from the perspective of the heritage part. Now, I could go in so many different directions. I mean, we are surrounded today by so much that disturbs us. So I could certainly talk about Esther, the story of Esther, which is the great story out of the Old Testament, that is only one of, as you know, of the many stories that the Jewish community celebrate every year to remind them of how God has worked for them and rescued them more than once. And certainly that would be a relevant story to talk about today. But I'm going to go in another direction. And it has to do with how we find pride and then purpose. So, but I have to go back in time to give you a little bit of my own journey. I'm not, well, I am from Herrin. I don't live there right now. But I grew up in Herrin, and back in the Dark Ages. And Herrin, most of you probably know, had a pretty violent history, has had And in fact, if you really want to know more, read the book Bloody Williamson. We're in Williamson County, of course. But, Heron became a frontier town very quickly in 1900 when they discovered coal under the farm fields. And it became very much a boom town. And it came about, my family, of course, well, not of course, but, like a number of families moved up from the county south of here, where they had settled, out of Tennessee and Kentucky back in the 1800s and became farmers. But then they moved to Heron to either have little businesses or to work in the coal mines or whatever. And my father grew up there and I grew up there. Well, the other thing that happened was that all of these immigrants, can you imagine, moved into this country from Italy. Heron's full of Italians and, Germans and Polish, et cetera, et cetera. So by the 1920s, now I was born in 42, which is about 12 years after the really disturbing violence took place. But my generation sat around on front porches and shade trees and whatever, and this was before television, so we didn't have a lot of entertainment, and listened to the older generations talk about what went on in Heron in the 20s. So 100 years ago, after World War I, when there was such a backlash against immigrants, Heron became a war zone. And it was divided between, we didn't like people who didn't speak English, but it was really divided between Protestants and Roman Catholics, bringing, to life here the ancient religious wars in Europe. And of course, we lived on the Protestant side of town, and the Catholic Church and most Italians lived on the other side of town. And then the other thing to make this even more interesting is that, that we passed an amendment to the Constitution prohibiting alcohol. You couldn't drink it, you couldn't sell it, you couldn't make it. Well, those Catholics needed their wine for communion. So, but they weren't the only ones making liquor. There were also, Protestants who didn't go to church who made liquor too. So to control all of this illegality, the Ku Klux Klan got revived. Hundreds of members of that Klan. And my parents would tell stories about how they would have, meetings at night in the field not far away and lit a cross and all that sort of stuff. Well, there ended up being a lot of gunfire between the Ku Klux Klan and the anti-Klan. And there was open warfare in the streets of Heron. People were regularly killed. There was a shootout in 1925, 100 years ago, between the head of the Klan and the anti-Klan in a cigar shop. And 10,000 people came to Heron for the funeral of the head of the Klan, which was at the Baptist church. And, the Klan were there in uniform and bodyguards and all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm telling you this really because while that open warfare was over with, I, as a boy, felt like I was living in a very kind of cruel, violent community. So along about 5 or 6 or 4 or somewhere in there, I began to have this sensation that I didn't know who I was. I couldn't tell whether I belonged with the girls or the boys. And gradually became, much more aware of that. And I would consciously, at family reunions, I would consciously realize, okay, I'm spending too much time with the women and the girls, and I'd go and spend time with the men. And last year, I have a great niece. I have a ton of relatives over there. Great niece who announced to her parents that she no longer wanted to wear dresses. She only wanted to wear pants, and she wanted a toolbox for Christmas, toolkit for Christmas. Well, needless to say, this little girl is going to get a lot of attention from me as time goes on. But I remember how lonely I was. And, you know, so what really irritated me about what's going on today is books being banned from libraries and from school classrooms if there's anything suggesting sexual identity issues or whatever. And I'm thinking, you know, that is cruel beyond cruel. Kids need to have somebody or someones to hear them, to see them, to be there to support them. So I managed to figure out that I wasn't very good at sports, so I didn't play sports. And in high school, I was in the band and I was in theater and so on and so forth. I mean, I managed to survive socially. I did, of course, nobody was talking about sexual issues. Homosexuality wasn't even a word that I think anybody was on anybody's lips inherent. We didn't have television with role models and so on and so forth. I managed to get through high school successfully in terms of not killing myself or totally despairing. But then in 1960, I came here to Southern. And I felt like I'd gone about 1,000 miles from home. It's only 15 miles between here and Heron. But, you know, there are a lot of people who wouldn't come to Carbondale back in those days. And I've even discovered some today down here who won't come to Carbondale. But I landed on it. It was very exciting for me, the university was. I mean, lots of new people and things and different people and so on and so forth. And at some point in my second year, I discovered perhaps maybe, of course we didn't use the word gay then, maybe I was gay or homosexual. And so I carried that in me without talking to anybody about it until 1 week before my 21st birthday. And by that time, I should have told you that my father was a Pentecostal preacher and I grew up in the Pentecostal church. And I was running as fast as I could to get away from the Pentecostals. And I discovered the Presbyterians down here on University. There you are. And I started going to Sunday school there. Not Sunday school, but church there. And my God, it was so different. There was sermons that were rational, and there was a choir that was vested in singing beautiful songs, and there was a procession. I mean, this is just revolutionary for me. Well, through a set of circumstances, I discovered the Episcopal Church. And there was a wonderful chaplain named Fred Lincoln Norman at St. Andrews down here on Mill Street. And he was from West Virginia. He'd been in the Navy, and he had a very kind of non-pious, non-sanctimonious way about him. He's very earthy. He drank and he swore, but he was very warm. He was very personable. Everybody loved him. And 1 week before my 21st birthday, I sat in his little office there, and I said to him, I think I'm a homosexual, and began to cry. And I cried, I must have cried for 2 weeks. Well, Fred could articulate unconditional love better than anybody I had known up to that point, and he would be right up there with the best of them today. So he left within a year to go to another parish, and I said to him, I don't think I can ever thank you enough. And he said, no. You can't. But he said, you will have opportunity to do to someone else what I've done for you. And when you do that, you will be paying me back. Now, since, of course, I've learned about pay it forward, but at that time, I didn't know what he was talking about. I was going to be a lawyer. I was majoring in political science, and I was forever going to be a lawyer, I thought, and do good work in the state legislature in Springfield. Well, that that experience with Fred changed my mind, and I decided I would be better maybe if I went to seminary. I might have more opportunity. And I wish I'd started way back when, making a list. I can't tell you how many times I've had the opportunity to repay him. So, now, for me to get to the place of pride that I think I now sort of have, I took some more psychotherapy and so on and so forth, but I think we really can't get to the kind of pride we want or the pride we need to be until we truly know ourselves. I mean, going inward, God is in each and every one of us, and having a conversation with God in our innermost being is the place to go to really find who you are. And by all means, don't depend on conclaves of cardinals and, committees of senators and academic whatever to determine who you are. It's a process. It certainly helps, God knows, it certainly helps to have people to help you and to listen to you and to reflect back to you who you really are. But it happens in here. So for me, that's pride. That's good pride. That's not selfish pride. That's not arrogant pride. That is true pride. And what at the time with Fred, Brother Fred, I didn't realize it, but he also set me on the road to fulfill my purpose in life, or certainly one of the important purposes in my life. So I 5 years ago moved back to Southern Illinois, where I was never going to live, by the way, never going to live here. And, we should never say never. And I can't tell you how thrilling it's been to be back here. I am so overwhelmingly grateful for this evening and for many of you. My fellow parishioner back there and good friend Trish Guyon, I came back and she said, "You have to meet Paulette Kirkin." You know. I didn't know who she was. Now, I'd come home, to see family, and my little handful of gay friends, we'd go to her bar, but I never met her. So I met Paulette. And more recent, about a year ago or so, she says that she wanted to introduce me to Juniper Oxford. I assume you know who Juniper is, right? And I'm in love with Juniper. I mean, that woman, she grew up in this little town down here on the Ohio River. Now, if you live in Heron, you look down on people down there, So her story is incredible. I mean, she now heads the, what I call the DEI department. I say that just because you're not supposed to say it. It's called something else. But anyway, she is doing a wonderful job. And then, of course, this choir, they're here, reminds me, I've lived in Washington, D.C., and I've lived in Chicago, and I've lived in Los Angeles. In the 80s, in the AIDS crisis, the gay men's choruses sprung up. And they became centers of hope and inspiration, and they still are. They got us through the AIDS epidemic, but this choir reminds me of that. What happens is that young people who come out of churches around the country who feel not accepted, often rejected, gravitate to these choirs, and they become centers of healing. So anyway, I'm so glad that I did come back and that I'm here with you tonight. Thank you all. God bless.
Good evening. I'm Kim McGuire, Reverend Kim McGuire. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the pastor at the Church of the Good Shepherd, United Church of Christ here in town. And in planning for this service, the group that gathered asked ourselves, how can we create a moment of communion where we see the individual gifts we bring and just how connected we are as individuals into a wider community that makes this place something you are thankful you came back to. You'll see at the ends of your pews that there are baskets of pebbles, and there's also markers in those bags. We'd like to invite you to take, to me they seem more than pebbles, don't they? They seem like big rocks. But we invite you to take one of those big rocks and think about your purpose here. And if you can distill that down into a word, to write that word on that rock. But then I'll tell you something else. I didn't know there'd be a script here for me today, and there'd be pebbles in the pews. So I brought my own supplies, and I'm telling you that because when I brought stuff, I brought scrappy little pieces of beach glass purposefully, because beach glass breaks, and it's sharp, and it's hard to hold, and then it gets tossed and turned by time and life and the beach itself. And then it becomes something worth holding on to, kind of something that people search for and treasure. And you may or may not know your word. And over the course of your life, your word might change. And none of us know the time we have in this place, in these forms we now inhabit, and when that time is up. But how precious this time is, and how precious whatever your gift is, whether you know the word for it or not, whether you recognize still some sharp edges, or whether your pebble is all smooth all around. May you recognize deep within the true gift that you have to offer, whether it has a word attached to it or not, and the many ways it will change and transform over the course of your one authentic life. This evening, we're also having an offertory, and during which we will hear more music and we'll pass offering plates. Any donations you feel that you'd like to give today will go to the Rainbow Community Health and Wellness, which is a clinic run by the Rainbow Cafe. And they offer one-on-one counseling, group therapy, HIV testing and prevention education, smoking cessation classes, and gender-affirming care. Our goal is to help remove societal barriers so that every person has the opportunity to live into their purpose. I'd like to just share very briefly the words of a Leonard Cohen song that some of you may know. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. May our offerings this evening be that kind of shining on the community around us. Let us receive this offering.
Good evening, beloved humans. I am Sabrina Starneman, and I am a Zen Buddhist chaplain here in Southern Illinois. And today, I have been asked to share a blessing with you. In this place of love, healing, and purpose, I would like to share a blessing that is inspired by the 8th century text, The Way of the Bodhisattva, by Shantideva, a Buddhist sage. But to begin, true to my tradition, let us all take a breath together. And that was so good. I'm going to ask us to take another and breathe in the goodness and the healing and the love and the strength that we have cultivated here tonight. Are you with me? Yes. In and out. Nice, nice. In the Buddhist tradition, we hold that everyone carries within them Buddha nature, an awakened or awakening mind, and a heart that's capable of infinite love. Infinite love, infinite compassion, mercy. With this in mind, I invite you to share in this blessing. But it's a blessing that you can take with you and bestow on all the people you meet. When you face seemingly insurmountable obstacles, may bridges appear. May we be bridges for those who face obstacles. When you are lost in the dark, may the light find you, and may we be the light for those in darkness. When you are weak or broken, may a healing balm arrive to restore you. And may we draw upon our expertise and our compassion and our wisdom and be a healing balm for those who suffer. May we all awaken to our true natures. May it be so. Thank you.
Please stand as you are able and comfortable and join in singing "Let There Be Peace on Earth," number 431 in your pew hymnal.
Peace
Thank you all for coming this evening. It has been such a pleasure to see you all here celebrating pride and purpose together. And as a reminder, please sit and think about your purpose while we listen to a final piece of music. And write that down on your pebble so that you can take it out, and there will be 2 basins in the narthex where you can drop your pebble and see the ripple effect that your purpose has. And then watch the pebble after you. See the ripples interact with each other, because we are all called to have purpose that interacts with other people's purpose in this world. Thank you for coming tonight. There will be refreshments in the Heritage Room afterwards, so please stay as long as you would like. I'm so happy that you're all here. Thank you.
And before the last piece of music, sorry, Tasha, I'm going rogue. There's one person in particular who I think we should all acknowledge tonight, and that is Tasha. She has spent countless days, countless hours, working with countless people to put this event together. So please, thank you, Tasha.